You've read the productivity books and you've taken the online courses.
You've built a toolbox of learning techniques like active recall and spaced repetition.
You are actively trying to get better, smarter, and faster every single day. Yet, despite all this effort, you can't shake a nagging feeling that you've hit a wall. It feels like you're trying to pour new water into a glass that is already completely full. You keep acquiring new information, but your actual wisdom doesn't seem to be increasing. This is a universal struggle for ambitious people in our modern world. But what if the problem isn't how you learn new things at all? What if the secret to learning faster has nothing to do with learning more? What if the solution is actually about learning less? This might sound backwards, but it's the key that unlocks your next level of growth. Because there is a forgotten step in how we learn, a step that almost everyone misses. The most important skill for the future is not learning, it's unlearning. And by the end of this video, you will know exactly how to master it. Look, all that work you've put into learning is incredibly valuable. Your personal learning toolbox with methods like active recall is fantastic for absorbing new knowledge. But those tools are only designed for one job, which is adding things to your brain. They don't provide a way to strategically remove things. I want you to stop treating your brain like a library to be filled and start treating it like a garden to be cultivated. Now, think of your mind as a packed attic that you haven't cleaned out in years. Up there, you have brilliant heirlooms sitting right next to broken furniture and boxes of junk. Your outdated beliefs, old habits, and incorrect information are that junk. This knowledge clutter gets in the way, making it hard to find the good stuff and impossible to add anything new. If learning feels hard, it's not a personal failure, it's a design problem. You're trying to work with an attic that's too full. In this video, I'm going to give you the tool to finally clean out that attic. First, we'll explore the science of strategic unlearning and why your brain actively fights against it. Then, I'm going to give you a powerful three-step process called the Prune Plant Method. This is a framework you can use immediately to clear out old thinking and accelerate your growth. So let's start by understanding the problem you're up against. The fundamental barrier we're discussing is a concept in psychology called cognitive fixedness. This is the state where our minds become locked into a particular way of thinking. We see a problem and can only imagine the one solution we've always used. It's like your brain's operating system needs a clean install, but you just keep trying to run new software on a buggy old OS. The new apps crash, the system slows to a crawl, and eventually nothing works as it should. This isn't a hypothetical problem. It has real-world costs that can be devastating. Imagine a marketing executive who built a fantastic career on print and television advertising in the 1990s. They were brilliant in their time, a true master of their craft. But when the internet arrived, they dismissed digital marketing as a fad for kids. Their inability to unlearn the principles of mass media made their hard-won expertise obsolete. They couldn't see that the world had changed its operating system. Or think about a talented software developer who mastered a programming language that was revolutionary 10 years ago. They built their entire identity around being an expert in that specific language. As new, more efficient languages emerged, they resisted, arguing that their old way was better. Their refusal to unlearn their perfect tool eventually made them less effective and less employable. This isn't just about professional skills, it's about our health and well-being, too. Consider someone who grew up with the belief that all dietary fat is the enemy. This was mainstream advice for decades, reinforced by countless headlines and products. As nutritional science evolved, revealing the importance of healthy fats, they struggled to adapt. The cost of not unlearning this outdated advice was a suboptimal diet that was actively harming their health. In all these cases, the problem wasn't a lack of knowledge. The marketer, the coder, and the health-conscious individual were all knowledgeable people. Their problem was a surplus of outdated knowledge that acted like a fortress wall, keeping new, better ideas out. They were stuck in a state of cognitive fixedness, and it cost them their relevance, their effectiveness, and their well-being. This is the danger we're all facing if we don't learn how to actively clean out the attic. So now that we understand the problem, why is it so incredibly difficult to do? The answer lies in the very wiring of our brains. Your brain isn't lazy when it resists unlearning. It's actually being incredibly efficient. Every time you learn and practice something, you strengthen the neural pathways associated with that knowledge. Think of these pathways like trails in a dense forest. The first time you learn a skill, it's like hacking a new trail with a machete, slow and difficult work. But with repetition, that trail becomes a well-trodden path, then a dirt road, and eventually a paved superhighway. Information travels down this superhighway almost instantly without any conscious effort. This is how habits and expertise are formed, and it's a brilliant feature of our biology. The problem arises when that superhighway leads to the wrong destination. Your brain, seeking efficiency, will always default to sending traffic down that familiar, easy road. Trying to learn something new that contradicts the old knowledge requires you to abandon the superhighway. You have to go back into the forest with your machete and start hacking a brand new path. Meanwhile, the old superhighway is still there, tempting you with its ease and speed. But there's an even more active process at play here, which neuroscientists call memory interference. This isn't just about old paths being easier. It's about old information actively blocking new information. Proactive interference is when an old memory makes it harder to recall a new, similar memory. It's why you might keep typing your old password for a few days after changing it. Your old password memory is so strong that it actively interferes with your brain's attempt to retrieve the new one. Now, scale that up from a simple password to a complex worldview or a deeply ingrained professional skill. The old knowledge isn't just sitting there passively. It's playing defense. It's actively working to sabotage your attempts to replace it with something new. This is why you hear the phrase, "It's hard to teach an old dog new tricks." It's not an insult. It's a surprisingly accurate observation of memory interference at work. Your brain has literally paved a road to an old idea and will fight you if you try to build a new one. So, unlearning isn't a matter of willpower. It's a matter of strategic demolition and reconstruction. If this feels familiar, if you've felt that struggle of old habits dying hard, you are not alone. It is just your brain doing exactly what it was designed to do for efficiency. But now, let's talk about how to redesign it. If this notion of unlearning resonates with you, just hit the like button so I know we're heading in the right direction. Now that we understand the problem and the science, what do we actually do about it? This is where we move from theory to practice. I'm going to teach you a framework I call the Prune Plant Method. This name is intentional, drawing from our garden analogy. You can't just plant new flowers in a garden that's choked with weeds and overgrown branches. You must first prune the old, dead wood to make space and provide light for new growth. This method has 3 distinct steps: identify, deconstruct, and replace. Let's start with the first and often hardest step: identify the weeds. This is about identifying the outdated beliefs and assumptions that are holding you back. The challenge is that these are often so ingrained they've become invisible to us. So we need a powerful technique to make them visible, and that technique is zero-based thinking. You ask yourself a simple but profound question about a key area of your life or work. Knowing what I know now, if I weren't already doing this, would I start doing it today? Let's apply this to a career path to see how it works. Someone has been in the same job for 10 years, feeling unfulfilled and stagnant. They ask themselves, knowing what I know now about myself and the industry, if I were a new graduate today, would I choose this career path? If the answer is a hesitant maybe or a clear no, that's a giant red flag. It reveals they are continuing down that path due to inertia, not intention. The outdated belief they've just identified is, this career is the right one for me. Zero-based thinking forces you to justify your current beliefs and behaviors from scratch. Once you've identified a belief that no longer serves you, you move to step 2, prune the branches. This is the deconstruction phase, where you find the faulty root of the old belief. You can't just ignore an old belief. You have to understand why you held it in the first place. The best tool for this is applying the 5 whys technique to yourself. Let's say you identified a belief like, I am bad at public speaking. You start by asking the first why. Why do I believe I'm bad at public speaking? The answer might be, because I get really nervous and my mind goes blank. Then you ask the second why. Why do I get nervous? Maybe the answer is because I'm afraid people will judge me or think I'm stupid. You continue this process, asking why to each subsequent answer. By the 5th why, you often move past the surface-level symptom to the core assumption. You might discover the root belief is actually, I believe I must be perfect to be respected. Now you see that the problem isn't public speaking, it's an unhealthy relationship with perfectionism. By deconstructing the belief, you expose its faulty foundation. You've pruned the branch and exposed the root, making it ready for removal. This prepares us for the final and most crucial step in the process. You can't just leave a hole where the old belief used to be. Your brain abhors a vacuum, and if you don't intentionally fill that space, an old weed will grow right back. This brings us to step 3, plant the seed. This is the active process of replacing the outdated model with a new, more accurate one. One of the most effective tools for this is a modified version of the Feynman Technique. Typically, this technique is used for learning something new. But here, we're using it specifically to overwrite an old mental model. The process is simple. Take the new, better belief or concept you want to install. Then, explain it in the simplest possible terms, as if you were teaching it to a 12-year-old. This act of simplification forces true understanding. You can't use jargon or complex analogies. You have to get to the core of the idea. Let's go back to our example about dietary fat. The old unlearned belief was all fat is bad. Different types of lipids have different effects on the body. To plant this new seed, you would sit down and write out an explanation. You might write, some fats are like good building blocks for my brain and cells, like avocados and nuts. Other fats are like gunk that can clog up the body's machinery, like some fats in processed snacks. Notice how this explanation is simple, uses analogies, and avoids getting lost in scientific terms. By articulating the new model so clearly, you are literally forging that new neural pathway we talked about. You're paving a new road and putting up a road closed sign on the old one. This step is not optional. It is the final act that solidifies the change. Unlearning without replacement is just forgetting. Unlearning with replacement is evolution. You've identified the weed. You've deconstructed it down to the root, and now you have planted a beautiful new flower in its place. So take a moment right now to think. What is the outdated software you are currently running? What is the one belief that, if you were honest with yourself, might be holding you back? Let's bring this all together into a quick, actionable summary. Remember, the core idea is simple. Your brain is a garden, not a library. Stop just trying to add more books to the shelves of a cluttered attic. It's time to start cultivating, which means you need to prune before you plant. Here is your 3-step method, the Prune and Plant framework. Step 1 is identify where you find the hidden weeds. Your tool for this is zero-based thinking. Ask yourself, knowing what I know now, would I start this today? If the answer is no, you've found a weed that needs pruning. Step 2 is deconstruct, where you trace the weed to its root. Your tool here is the 5 whys, applied to your own belief. This helps you understand the faulty foundation so you can remove it completely. Step 3 is replace, where you plant a new seed in the cleared-out space. Your tool is the Feynman Technique, used for replacement. Explain the new, better model in the simplest terms to solidify it in your mind. Identify, deconstruct, replace. That is the cycle of strategic unlearning. This isn't a one-time fix for a single problem. This is a new mental habit for achieving lifelong relevance in a world that never stops changing. So let's zoom out for a second. We started this journey by looking for a missing ingredient, a forgotten step in how we learn. We've discovered that this step isn't about adding something new, but about taking something away. Learning in the 21st century is not a process of simple addition. It is a process of cultivation. It requires the wisdom to know what to plant, but also the courage to know what to prune. That missing ingredient, that forgotten step, is the courage to unlearn. It is the permission you give yourself to admit that a past belief may no longer be true. It's the intellectual humility to release your grip on old certainties to make space for new possibilities. Find the belief that no longer serves you and give it a dignified burial. Thank it for the purpose it once served, and then let it go to make room for what comes next. This is how you stop being a victim of change and start becoming an architect of your own evolution. The goal is not to have a brain full of facts. The goal is to have a mind that is nimble, adaptable, and ready for a future that hasn't been written yet. Because in today's world, your value is not what you know. It is how fast you can update what you know. If this video sparked a new idea or helped you see your own learning in a new light, hit that like button to let me know. It really helps the channel understand what content resonates most with you. And now I have a question for you. Comment below, what is one thing you now realize you might need to unlearn? There is no judgment here, only a community of fellow lifelong learners. And if you want to keep mastering powerful mental tools like this, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss what's next.